My husband cheated on me. I think this is the end of the road. Previously. I hyperventilated, tears flooding down my cheeks as I sped away. Once I was satisfied with the amount of distance I'd put between myself and Justin's doppelganger, I rolled into a gas station and parked at one of the pumps. I felt so lost. So confused. What the hell had just happened? Why did this thing want to track me down so badly? And Adeline. What had he done to her? I wasn't sure I wanted the answer to that question. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my palpitating heart. It's going to be okay. Just calm down and come up with a game plan. It'll all be over soon, I muttered, staring reassuringly at myself in the rearview mirror. I didn't truly believe that, but I had to do something. I couldn't afford to keep crying my eyes out and waiting there like a sitting duck. I needed a plan, so I did the only thing I could think to do. I hopped out of my car and prepaid for gas. My head was on a swivel as I inserted the nozzle of the tank. The gas station was desolate, save for an older gentleman smoking a cigarette by the front door. My foot tapped against the concrete as the fuel gauge slowly ticked up. My heart pounded like a jackhammer the entire time, just waiting to see that familiar red truck pulling in beside me. But it never did. I breathed a sigh of relief, placing the fuel pump back into its compartment. I glanced back at the man by the door for a split second, before jumping back into the driver's seat. He was talking on the phone now. And was he grinning at me? I didn't want to wait to figure out what he was planning. I zipped down the road and onto the interstate. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew that I needed to get far away from my husband's look-alike. Once I was on the open road and all the fear had begun to dissipate, it hit me. Everything. The cheating, the lies, the betrayal. All of it. It all crashed down on me like a tidal wave. What hurt the most was the false sense of security I was lulled into. I had let myself believe that Justin had changed. That he'd turned a new leaf with no provocation whatsoever. The thought that all that time, none of the love I'd been given was even real. It shattered my heart all over again. I'm not ashamed to admit that I cried. I sobbed uncontrollably as I continued down sparsely populated roads. I didn't want to be on the run from some unknown entity. I wanted to go back home and take a nice, warm bath. But I knew I couldn't do that. I had been driving for a little over 3.5 hours before I started to get low on fuel again. I pulled off on the nearest exit. By that point, the adrenaline had worn off, and I was starting to get tired. I soon found myself at a run-down Motel 6 in the middle of bumfuck Egypt. The red and blue sign flickered as I pulled into the parking lot, a great indicator of the quality of the room I'd be staying in. I took a deep breath and looked at myself in the mirror. "Come on, Lydia. You can do this," I murmured, stepping out of the car. My eyes darted from left to right as I made my way to check in. My BMW looked so out of place beside all the rusted clunkers sprinkled throughout the lot. I picked up my pace, my heart rate spiking. A bell chimed as I opened the door to retrieve my key. A young man with black, greasy hair sat behind the counter, reading a Playboy magazine. He didn't even look up as I approached. Hi. Can I get a room?" The boy lazily glanced up at me, before releasing a sigh. "Sure. $50. I pursed my lips as I fished around in my wallet. $50 a night for this dump? What a rip-off. I slapped the cash onto the counter, thanking my lucky stars that I wouldn't have to risk getting my bank information stolen from their card reader. The boy, whose name tag read Steven, handed me the key for room number 12, before pocketing the cash. "Thanks," I said, shooting him a glare as I snatched the keys. He gave me a slight nod, before returning to his magazine. I nearly sprinted to room 12. I hurriedly jammed the key into the lock, before shoving the door open. Right as I was closing it, something caught my eye. Headlights. I kept the door cracked just enough to see. Silly, right? Surely, I was just being paranoid. There was no way that. It was him. Justin's truck cruised into the parking lot. It was unmistakable. The faded red paint, the dent on the driver's side door, the crack running down the entirety of the windshield. It was all there. I quietly locked myself in the room, my head spinning. How was this happening? I was so far from home. How had he found me again? The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. How stupid could I possibly be? The answer was so simple. I pulled out my phone, and there it was. Justin and I were sharing our locations. With everything that had happened, I hadn't even thought to turn it off. I knew it was too late, but I turned off location services anyway. I felt nauseous as I placed my phone back in my pocket. How accurate was that thing? Did the doppelganger know what room I was in? Morbid curiosity got the best of me. I had to know. With a shaky hand, I brushed back the blinds to my window. The second I did, tears began to trickle down my cheeks, and my blood turned to ice. He was outside. Justin's impersonator was standing directly outside my window. His eyes were wide and manic. The grin he wore looked off. Like it was too big for his face. I couldn't move. I was paralyzed with fear. The fake Justin walked up to the glass and paused for just a moment. The silence was so deafening that the only audible noise was the blood pumping in my ears. And then, he moved. His tongue lolled out of his mouth, and he slapped it against the glass with a wet thump. He dragged it upward, those inhuman eyes never breaking contact with mine. I found you. It's time to stop running and let me in. His smile vanished as he gritted out those words. That was enough to snap me from my stupor. I let the blinds fall over the window and stumbled backward, nearly crashing into a table. That's where I am now. Writing this at that table. I'm done for. It's only a matter of time before he breaks in. I phoned the front desk, but no one answered. I called the police too, but response times are slow this far out in the boonies. This will most likely be my final update. If the cops don't show up on time, I don't know what he'll do to me. My hands are trembling as I type this. He's trying to kick the door down, and I don't think it's going to hold. To anyone reading this, please listen to me. If you notice a sudden change in a loved one's personality, don't brush it off. Because it just might be this thing, wearing their face. Is this the last part? I want an update op. What does the doppelganger want from you? Try to talk to him? Can't you just go back to how it was before Adeline the homewrecker called you? He was a better husband than the one you had, would be a shame if he just eat you. I wanted to see their happy ending. Don't sit and write, go down fighting. Find a weapon. Toilet tank lid, toilet seat, shower rod, etc. I'll take the Yandra shapeshifter if you still don't want him smiling face with smiling eyes.